This is the surface pattern today. You have high pressure building down from the north here, and what it's doing is pushing cooler air against the Appalachians, which is known as cold air damming. Not necessarily cold, but cooler, and this is resulting in some pleasant temperatures along, in this area here, more pleasant than it's been. Of course, south of this and along this area, you can see along. This is the monsoon trough, monsoon season. What moisture flowing up from Mexico. You have this surface boundary and this low, this forecast to move into the Gulf, and with a 10% chance right now of becoming a tropical system, quite low, but enhanced rainfall in these areas today, and nicer temps east of the Appalachians for a couple days. What happens tomorrow with this? Take this off of here. See, it's still stalled out, but manages to make it and the high pressure system moves a little further offshore, which weakens the overall push of air down here. You can see the front doesn't make much progress, and it won't move much more this way. That low pressure area that we talked about right here now, with the surface troughs associated with it. And the biggest threat of rainfall is along the intersection and south of this, where this boundary is setting up in the northern tier of the U.S. As we go into day 3, you can see the that boundary is lifted north as a warm front, so warm temps will start to push back north. That low pressure system now is projected to be off the Louisiana coast, and let's see, by Friday, with the heaviest rain relegated to the upper Midwest, Ohio Valley, parts of Illinois, Missouri, Iowa, Wisconsin, extreme south, east Nebraska, northeast Kansas. This time of year, these boundaries don't move very much. So, of course, as we know, they become a focus for heavy rain. And that's what we're going to talk about next. As you can see, the high temps today for a good portion of the country is going to be the low 80s to 90s, with some hundreds in the lower Mississippi Valley, on the Gulf Coast, Texas, flirting close to 100, upper Midwest, northern high plains, 70s, 80s, northeast, still not too bad, getting in the high 80s in the mid-Atlantic, lower 90s on the southeast, likely due to increased cloud cover and precipitation. I just want to show you the min temps of the northeast, quite nice, 50s and 60s. That high pressure dominates up there with the cooler air. Also quite nice across the northern tier, northern high plains, upper Midwest, just east of the Cascades and the Rockies. It'll be quite nice. We go to day 2, which is Thursday, 8 p.m., and it starts to warm up in the northeast, which we talked about. Not staying cool very long, is it? So Texas warms up quite a bit, still in the southeast, cooler than normal. Well, not cooler than normal, but about average or a little bit below. Excuse me, I have a sneeze coming on. Anyway, sorry about that. Minimum temps, even though not oppressive, warming up in the northeast, still quite nice in the upper Midwest, along the front range of the Rockies, portions of the northern high plains. All, pretty much the nation's divided in half from 60s and 70s, except for the northeast and the extreme northern AP, Michigan, and along the Appalachians, of course, the mountains. I wish I lived up there in the mountains, 48 degrees. That's nice. um, Warming up for a good portion of the nation on Friday. And the only cool areas really are in the mountains in the west. On Saturday, quite hot again, with cooling off in the northeast again, some heating back up in the southeast. So really, like almost the whole nation, you know, is going to be under the gun again for heat. So minimum temps mostly in the 70s. Not cool really anymore anywhere except for in the mountains. And it's starting to cool off still in the northeast, along the mid Atlantic. Remaining hot everywhere else. See the min temps again. Heating up again for a good portion of the nation. Maybe starting to cool off on the extreme upper Midwest. Yeah, it's cooling off a little bit there and a little bit in the Northeast. And then day 7, still a little bit cooler. So overall theme is so we have some bouts of cooler temps, but then warming back up for a good portion of the nation, which is not uncommon this time of year. Really, the northern tier is the only one that usually gets pushes of cooler air, and to have cooler air make it, cooler meaning like less than 90 degrees, let's say, down in this area is very unusual this time of year. Although these real field temps, these are actual temps where um, the actual heat index is probably going to be in the hundreds for a lot of these areas. So the main theme is, this time of year, especially if anywhere in the southern tier of the U.S., be mindful of the temps, especially during the middle of the day. Don't try to work outside for a long period of time if you have to. Wear light clothing, drink plenty of water, take a lot of breaks. But if you can, avoid being out there and doing strenuous stuff during the middle of the day. As far as precipitation over the next till Saturday at around midnight or 8 p.m. Um, through tomorrow at midnight, you can see where the biggest probabilities of having precip are the dark green, almost 90%. So you can see we got a wide area here of high precip chances, and along the mid-Atlantic, there's some just cooler, stable air right here, which is uh, inhibiting precip. But of course, we have that low pressure and stellar frontal boundary in the area here, which the highest precip chances on the Gulf Coast, Ohio Valley, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Pennsylvania, New York. You see all the states here. Pretty wide area here of at least predicted at least a quarter-inch precip. These areas likely, especially this area here, will likely have some flooding risk if yeah. And along the Gulf Coast too, there's pretty well. This shifts eastward some, but that incessant amount of rainfall, especially on the Gulf Coast and where it was in the upper Midwest and the along the Great Lakes, we really might see some flooding here. And let's see what the expected amount is. through Saturday. So we're talking, well, surprisingly, if we go through Saturday, it won't let me do Saturday. This is a 24-hour accumulation. Let's do Saturday, yeah. So this is a 24-hour accumulation. Not expected to be extreme, but it stays in one area up here, especially in the upper Midwest, along the Gulf Coast. Flash flooding risk is real, and accordingly, let me pull that up real quick on the fly here. We'll look at the flooding risk. Excessive rainfall. Yeah, we have a bullseye. Oh, sorry. We have day one is today. I think it's probably till Tuesday. But you can see the slight risk area along the Gulf Coast into parts of Georgia, South Carolina, down through the desert Southwest with the monsoon moisture streaming all the way up in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes, UP, Michigan. That area moves further south, like we showed, and then we have a boundary set up here where we have a marginal risk and a large marginal risk surrounding it, streaming from the southwest again into Wisconsin, Michigan, Illinois, and along the Cascades um, into Oregon. Marginal risk there, and this slight risk shifts eastward in Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and some marginal risk in the parts of North Dakota, South Dakota, and Minnesota, and of course along the Gulf Coast where this 10% risk of tropical development is. Then if we look at the day 4 and 5, you can see where they already have a slight risk out for day 5 up in the upper Midwest again, Minnesota, surrounded by marginal risk, and marginal risk again along the East Coast, Northeast, parts of Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Vermont, all those little states there, and again the monsoon moisture in New Mexico and parts of Arizona, a sliver of Texas there. When you have a slight risk this far out, I would say that there's a good chance it'll be upgraded, or it could be downgraded depending on future forecasts. But that's it for right now for precip. Categorical outlook: we have a general risk of thunderstorms. Excuse me, in the southeast, deep south, with a slight risk in Wisconsin. Yikes! I keep clicking on stuff. Minnesota, Nebraska, with a marginal risk surrounding it. And what's driving it is, you have a 5% tornado risk up here in parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, surrounded by 2% tornado risk. As far as wind risk goes, 15% in the, which is slight in the yellow, 5% in the brown, and hail. Of course, usually hail is more prevalent right along the Front Range and just east of it with the better lapse rates and things like that. So you're moving to day 2, which is Thursday. The hail risk is still there along the Front Range of the Rockies. Categorical, really only a few marginal risks. Michigan, Detroit, Chicago, or Chicago's not a state, obviously. Cities here, parts of Wisconsin, Ohio, with a large area of just general thunderstorm risk. Look at wind, 5% risk in those areas. Again, hail. If we go into day 3, marginal risk in the Northeast and the most of North Dakota, parts of South Dakota, a little bit of Montana and Minnesota, and a large risk of general thunderstorms again. Um, as we know, day 3, they don't give a specific outlook it's just based on probabilities at this point. So marginal is that's what it is. It's marginal, which means it's not likely but possible kind of thing. The last thing I'm going to talk about is go over the tropics, so what my thoughts are about this potential system out here, and go over the potential impacts and look at the overall satellite loop and see what else is going on out there. So stay tuned. So the tropics. I always like to show this. I know this isn't like what a lot of people show, but I really think it's useful because we have these AI models that are, going toe to toe against um, the deterministic models, which are the EC, the European high res and ensemble members. And what you see here is active systems in the West Pacific, which there's a lot of right now. And the West Pacific doesn't really have, you have one off Australia too, actually. Um, anyway, West Pacific there's no real off season for the West Pacific, and partly because the scope, the amount of ocean that encompasses the West Pacific is huge here, and it has the warm ocean currents. The trade winds blow this way, the ocean currents flow this way, and when you go down the west coast here, when the water flows south along the coastline, you have colder temps, and that's why along the it flows like this. Anyway, that's the sea surface flow, right? And under the sea too. Kind of like the Gulf Stream, right? You have currents that flow this way, kind of circle around and kind of go up like this, and flow like that. Well, and back around. And anything on the southward side of southeast side of the continent is cooler water, and that's why we don't. It's hard to get systems to form right here off the coast because you have colder water, and temps have to be at least 26 C, which is 80 Fahrenheit, at least about 50 feet, 50 meters deep to sustain tropical systems. And that's why the United Kingdom is typically the temperatures are more moderate because the Gulf Stream is transporting warm water all the way up here, which moderates temps in the United Kingdom. So if this Gulf Stream went away or stopped working, we'd have um, we've had all kind of global problems, a lot more than we do now, because this is nature's way of balancing the nature way of balancing everything. Nature is all about balance, and the weather's that way, the sea is that way. It takes the heat from the southernmost portions and transports up to the north, and the same with the south. So it's constantly balancing itself out. But that's why the Pacific here, such a wide area that of warm water, especially along the continents here. Just a lot of stuff, a lot of areas for development, and that's why along the west coast, the U.S., you don't see systems. If they do move up this way, they die out because the temperatures are too cold and more stable air. Anyway, long explanation there, but I thought it's useful. So as you move forward in time here, I'm just going to let this run. You can see that's That's a 10% chance in the Gulf. It looks like the European high res thinks there'll be a low pressure develop, but nothing more, and maybe moving to Texas. Um, Possible systems out here in the West Pacific, and maybe something in the this is Wednesday, July 30th, 31st, about a week out. And then the European models fall off, and these are just the A models. This is way far out, but I'm just going to let it run because the A models have shown some skill going this far out too. You see the dots are all over the place, not tightly clustered, so I wouldn't really put credence in that. But if you don't see low pressure, like it's showing a low pressure develop, then it's like you're not very confident that something will. Anyway, that's that. And the system in the Gulf. Pull this up here. So this is another way to look at the ensembles. European has 51 members, and each number here represents a pressure value and one member. So this where it says 14, that's 1014. So see how some of the members are way out here, but a lot of them are tightly clustered around this 1015 average low pressure, right? There's nothing right there. You move forward a little bit and you see what happens. It doesn't really develop. It almost looks like there's really not a lot going on there. It's not showing anything concentrated. That's a European ensemble, so um, I just want to show you this too. This is and I'll jump back to the other ensemble members, but this is kind of a really rough graphic of what the National Weather Service puts out every day about cumulative probability of development. And I think it's kind of skewed. I think this is latching on to an extra tropical low that may develop out here, which is not by definition, obviously tropical, which is baroclinic, not barotropic like tropical systems are. And I've explained that before, but baroclinic means the formation and energy is derived from differences in temperature between, cold and warm air, whereas barotropic is driven by latent heat release. And there's no fronts involved. So if you have a front involved, then it's not tropical. Anyway, yesterday we had some kind of risk off here, and now it's showing the possibility of something happening in the Gulf. We'll just have to see how it plays out. And I don't think it's worth worrying about, but it's kind of neat to talk about anyway. Moving back to the ensembles. This is the Canadian. I really don't know how many members it shows. It has, but anyway, I have to look that up. But it's not it's not convincing me that anything major is going to happen here. EPS. Let's go back. This is the European and AI model combined. It's even less confident in something developing. And then if we go to the GEFS, which is the American model, which I stand corrected. I was saying it's 21 members, but it's actually 31, whereas the European ensemble is 51. They upgraded to 31 members about 5 years ago. So that's my bad on that. But nothing convincing there, really. And if you go to the global, this is the super ensembles was put together, all of them, the ensemble, like the European, Canadian, in the American model at least. It combines their output to show possible low pressure development. This is the latest run of it. You can see where it shows some members having low pressure, 1016 low. It really maybe think something might develop, possibly like a just a nothing that strong. So another way to look at this is precip and moisture. Um, we can look at moisture moving through the atmosphere here. This isn't really a good depiction of it, but um, let me see if I can. Anyway, the blues are higher moisture content. See the higher moisture content kind of swings. You see how dry it is up here? That's what we're talking about as far as the cooler, drier air moving in. And the high moisture content is being pushed to the south. You can see right along the coast here, this is um, moving forward in time. It moves out into the Gulf. The highest PWatt values move right along the PWatt, meaning uh, precipitable water in millimeters, which it some places showed in inches. But anyway, you can see where the highest moisture content is, and it swings into the Mississippi, Louisiana, and eventually on the Texas coast. While the drier air is relegated to the extreme northeast. So in the short term and long term, really, the short term, I'm not too bullish on any tropical system developing in the Gulf. Uh, things can always change. The models have been hinting at something for a while, but if it stays tied to a frontal boundary, which it's shown it's not now, but there'll still be surface troughs as part of it. So we'll have to see if it can get together or not. If you look at the last thing, what I want to do is look at the on one of the models, look at the wind shear in the upper atmosphere, see what it looks like. Let's look at the IR satellite. What it thinks IR satellite's going to look like. Let's go through time here. It's really not looking that organized, to be honest with you. This is infrared, what it thinks the satellite presentation is going to be. Um, so, given all this, I'm not going to spend a lot more time on the tropics just because I don't think it's really worth talking about at this point, other than just the fact that, and I I love the tropics, and I want people to know what's going on. I just think that we're not going to have a lot of development, at least as of right now. Anyway, I hope you have a good day, and hope you enjoyed listening to this, and I hope you keep tuning in. If you like this video, please like it and subscribe if you feel like it, and we appreciate it. Thank you.